and looking to build in a few more over the coming months. I'd like to thank Peter for his passion and for speaking from the heart and personal experience as well about his feelings and ideas about the Ross Sea, and also to Chuck for coming all this way this evening to launch our report. And all of you for coming. A little bit about the Antarctic Ocean Alliance before I go on what we've done so far. So as I say, we're now building in a number of countries around the world. We have quite a lot of partners on board already, and we are seeking more from the NGO community, as well as from individuals. And our latest press release, if some of you may have seen it today, shows that we've recently had support from Edward Norton, the UN Biodiversity Ambassador, who's also a Hollywood actor, and from Sir Richard Branson and a few other people who are coming on board to support the campaign. It's been a short time that we've taken to build to this point, but it's really been quite an exhilarating process. And we do expect that over the coming months we'll be able to really express to the public, or to many publics in different countries around the world, how important this issue is, so that they can participate in the campaign at some level. And we think that's very important at this stage in the decision-making process. So we're focusing both on the political process and on helping out the science, as well as bringing the voice of the public to the issue. This was the map that we released at Camelot at the end of last year, which is the 19, we call it the 19 areas map, with the various areas that we believe are important for protection. And we are talking about, through the Camelot process and through our alliance and through working with governments, creating a network of marine protected areas and no-take marine reserves around Antarctica. Obviously that process is already underway with Camelot, but we think that the engagement of the NGO community and the public at this point in time is very important for the decision-making process. We will be, the Ross Sea report, which you have with you now and has been launched today, is just the first of the series of reports that we're seeking to do this year. So we're not focusing just on the Ross Sea, although that's a very important issue obviously in New Zealand. But we will also be issuing a circumpolar report, looking in more detail at many of these areas this year, and we're also currently thinking about putting a proposal together in relation to East Antarctica. Now some of those products will probably come out before Camelot this year, but of course we know that Camelot's going to take a few years to make a number of these decisions, so we don't expect it all to be done in the single moonshot, as somebody described it to me, in November this year. It will take a little bit more time than that. I want to make a little bit of a quick distinction between the Ross Sea and the Ross Sea region. The Last Ocean and others, and ASOC, have really been focusing on the Ross Sea specifically, on the slope and shelf, for very good reasons. Because the planning process is underway and the designation of marine protection is underway in Camelot language for what they call the 9 planning domains now. With this report we've looked at the broader Ross Sea region, and we've tried to fill in some of the gaps and to look at additional areas that might be important for protection. So there is for the uninitiated, a little bit of difference, I suppose, in the nomenclature between the Ross Sea and the Ross Sea region. And I just want to make that distinction now, because it is, although it's technical, it's actually important in terms of some of the debate. So our proposal has 6 points, and it's set down in the document in front of you. We are seeking to protect large-scale ecosystems processes in the Ross Sea region in their entirety. But that doesn't mean in our proposal we are seeking the full protection of the entire Ross Sea region. In fact, we'll see that there's certainly some areas where we haven't put lines on the map. We are looking at protection of the biodiversity and ecological processes associated with the regional gyre, which is a very important ecosystems process. Protection of biodiversity hotspots such as the Ross Sea shelf and slope, which has been very much the focus of the Last Ocean and ASOC. but also the Bellini Islands, the Pacific Antarctic Ridge and the Scott Seamounts, and we've included those in the proposal, and we think there's very good reasons for that. Protection of critical geomorphic features, including the seamounts, ridges and troughs of the Pacific Antarctic Ridge and the associated life forms. That's because many of these places are biodiversity hotspots, and they're critically important, we believe, for the health of the entire ecosystem. 3 more points. Protection of areas critical to the life history stages of the Antarctic toothfish, including the feeding and spawning grounds, and you'll see again in the map, that's not everything, but it is a greater area, and we believe a greater area is needed for protection than has been set down so far in the various scenarios that are out there. Broad protection that facilitates expansion for long-term databases for research, and I think that's very important as well, including because we need to be very carefully protecting the Ross Sea region as a place to study the long-term impacts of climate change and ocean acidification, and so on. And the last point is a slight repetition of the first one, but also we have there is certainly significant literature out there that says that the Ross Sea will be one of the least affected long-term places in terms of climate change, and that in actual fact we need to protect it as a refuge and potentially for ice-dependent species of other areas in Antarctica no longer able to sustain those species. But obviously we're looking quite a way in the future on that issue. I now just want to give you a quick description of the areas and look at a couple more of the details. So we'll get into a little bit of technical detail, but I'll try not to get too deeply into that technical detail right now, and maybe if people have questions we can deal with that later. It's very clear that the US and New Zealand scenarios that have already been distributed or put out there in the Camelot community provide a very significant step towards protecting the Ross Sea. There's no doubt about that, and they're very welcome, and what we are seeking to do is to expand on those scenarios. We're seeking to strengthen the levels of protection, and hoping that the resulting Ross Sea Marine Reserve will provide truly comprehensive protection for all of the key features. We have identified through our study additional 3 areas for protection, and they are outlined on the map. I hope you can see in the bottom left-hand quadrant. And so we've got New Zealand, USA, additional areas, and then if you sum them together, you have the Antarctic Ocean Alliance proposal in the bottom right-hand corner. The key to this map is essentially the dark blue area is the continental shelf, the light blue area is the slope, and then the cyan areas, if we can call them those, are the oceanic shallows. So those they're specific seamounts or their ridges or very important features that are the things that are likely to have high levels of biodiversity and endemic species and so on and so forth. So areas that we believe are very important for protection. In additional protection area 1, and the report goes into more detail about this, is the only ocean trough that is located within the Ross Sea region. Additional area 1 also contains a mid-ocean ridge rift valley that intersects the frontal region of the Antarctic circumpolar current. And these regions are very productive in terms of biodiversity, which is one of the reasons we've included additional area 1. Additional protection area 2 is a very interesting and complex area. It's sort of split between the north area and the south. In the southern portion of this area, 2 ridges, which are the cyan blobs, right in the middle of the number 2 there. And these are the only 2 ridges that are mapped in the Ross Sea planning region. Connecting these ridges is a network of canyons that commence on the shelf and are also the only canyons of this type within the Ross Sea region. They're called shelf-commencing canyons, and they're key components of the ecological systems in the Ross Sea region. They transfer nutrients between the shelf and the abyssal environments, and also provide migration routes for fish and other creatures. I'm going to skip ahead and show you, we'll come back to the additional areas map in a second, but I'm just going to skip ahead and show you a map of the biodiversity hotspots. And you can see the the only area that we actually have data in this map is the green square. The areas around Bellinis and these other seamounts are actually not included in the data set. But this particular set of data has shown that in this particular area the biodiversity is very high. And this is one of the reasons for additional area 2. It's a biodiversity hotspot. The other thing that is included in this area are seamounts. Further to the north, you've got the Scott and the Tangaroa seamounts, which are these points up in here. Again, are likely to have high levels of biodiversity. The Scott seamount chain consists of Scott Island and multiple seamount summits with very rugged, steep flanks. And the abundance and types of seafloor diversity at the Scott seamounts differ significantly from other areas which are included nearby, such as the Admiralty seamounts. Protecting only the Admiralty seamounts will not adequately capture this diversity. The Tangaroa seamount is also there and is unique, as it is the only seamount within the 100 to 200 metre bathome in the Pacific Antarctic Ridge ecoregion. So all of these things we believe are very important features that should be protected. We also have a map in the report in relation to toothfish, and we also propose that additional protection area 2 is identified as a key feeding ground of mature toothfish on the Ross Sea slope. We know that CAMLR has agreed that MPAs are very valuable tools to protect and maintain key ecosystem processes, including life history stages of the Antarctic marine life. So we believe that a high priority should be given to establishing protection of the Ross Sea Antarctic toothfish's feeding ground for adult pre-spawning fish. So I'll skip over to number 3, an additional protection area 3. In this protection area we have mid-oceanic ridge rift valleys between the Pacific and Antarctic plates, which are also predictors of the hydrothermal vent communities and locations with high degrees of endemic species, likely to be. It's likely that some species here are unique to this region, including the giant cod and the eel pout. So when you connect all of these pieces together in what we've outlined in the report, we feel very strongly that these areas are important for additional protection. So we come to the final piece, which is we've put all of this together in the final map, which includes the Bellinis, the Scott seamounts, the Tangaroa seamounts. In the map we've got the canyons, the ridges, etc., and we put together what we believe is the best case for protection, and that is in your packs. I guess the final thing that we should mention is the climate change reference issue. Again, I can come back to that. There's a section in the report on it. But the IPCC has said that this is one of the places on Earth which is likely to be more resilient over time, and it gives science a great opportunity to research and study that resilience. Also to study some climate impacts on a marine ecosystem which is intact or largely intact, and an area which can be studied on a timescale which isn't really necessarily available in other areas. So just in conclusion, I'd like to say that the gap analysis of the current scenarios shows the best elements, we believe, of the New Zealand and US MPA proposals, that they can be brought together in a combined, extended and enhanced proposal. that truly protects these critical, unique and precious ecosystems. So we are urging the CAMLR to fully implement our proposal. And we believe that with visionary political leadership, not just from CAMLR but also from the member states, that CAMLR can in fact grasp this opportunity. So I'm just going to finish by showing you our new campaign video, which is going live on the internet, I think, as we speak, we hope. There's been a few struggles with getting the web finalised today, but it should be just about and hopefully I can make that happen, Peter, by... Thank you. Doing a black screen. Is that right?
One more time.
And then click. Okay. So this is just...
People are a part of nature, and everything that our lives and our civilization are built on rely on healthy ecosystems in the planet.
If you think of the ocean as the heart of the planet, the real heart of the heart is this glistening continent, Antarctica, where all of the oceans of the world converge.
Antarctica's oceans are one of the most pristine areas on the planet.
If Antarctica is changed, and it is changing, the effects resonate throughout the whole planet.
The Antarctic Ocean Alliance is a coalition of a number of environmental and conservation groups from around the world. We're campaigning to create the largest network of no-take marine reserves on the planet. A no-take marine reserve is an area where there can't be any fishing and no industrial activity.
It's about actually making sure that what we enjoy today is here for other people to enjoy tomorrow.
You can't solve a problem if you don't know you've got one. Now we know.
85% of the world's fisheries are currently overfished.
Most populations of fish are in decline.
The waters of Antarctica have become attractive for industrial-scale fishing because fish close to where people live really don't exist in large numbers anymore.
We're fishing our way down the food chain.
This year, 25 countries are going to come together and make decisions about the fate of Antarctica's oceans. We have to make sure that they know that we're watching them.
There's a moment of opportunity here to apply that pressure. You can send a clear signal that millions and millions of people are watching this process. Don't let us down.
I'm watching.
Join the watch.
I'm going to be watching. Join the watch.
It was a right